Imagine a machine that can, flawlessly navigate rush hour traffic and then predict an illness you don't even know you have yet.
Right, and paint a masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. All before you've even had your morning coffee. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today's stack of sources from a recent AI news digest, dated July 26, 2026, by the way, kind of proves that this isn't just science fiction anymore.
It really isn't. The stakes have totally changed.
Because we are looking at a fundamental shift here. The digital walls have basically vanished. Artificial intelligence is no longer that invisible force curating your streaming queue or catching a typo in an email.
No, it is completely broken out of the digital realm. It's moving into the messy, totally unpredictable physical world.
Which is wild to think about. 'Cause
Okay.
let's unpack this. We want to figure out how this intelligence is moving from those closed digital loops right into our daily lives.
And ultimately what happens when it's forced to make subjective or, honestly, moral choices on our behalf.
Right, because that is the big question. So to give you all a quick map of this deep dive, we're going to look at AI's physical achievements first, then its biological applications, its controversial entry into art, and finally the moral rulebook we are desperately scrambling to write for it.
It's a lot to cover, but it all connects.
It does. Let's start with the most immediate visible change. Literally, the reality right outside your window. The Digest reports that a leading tech company just completed its first fully driverless delivery in a bustling urban environment.
Yeah, right in the middle of the city.
Now, driverless technology isn't a new concept, obviously, but navigating a closed testing track is just a contained math problem, right?
Exactly. It's predictable.
But dropping a vehicle into a downtown metropolitan grid at rush hour, that feels like a completely different universe of chaos.
Oh, the magnitude of the processing required to survive that environment. It really cannot be overstated. A city street is the ultimate test of edge cases.
Because anything can happen.
Right, you have a pedestrian stepping off a curb while they're staring at their phone, a cyclist weaving blindly through a red light, a delivery truck double parking and completely obscuring the crosswalk.
Yeah, just absolute chaos.
The source details how this specific delivery vehicle relies on this dense, continuous feed of LiDAR, radar, and 360-degree high-definition cameras.
But having eyes everywhere doesn't automatically make you a good lawyer.
No, not at all. The leap forward here is the algorithmic processing happening between all those sensors.
See, when I try to conceptualize this, my brain just stops at the sheer processing power required. It's like playing a chaotic, high-stakes video game where the rules change every single second.
That's a great way to look at it.
Because I can barely dodge a stray cyclist when I have both hands gripped on the steering wheel and I'm relying on, decades of human instinct. How is a machine making those split-second life-or-death judgment calls?
Well, it has to be doing something far beyond just snapping good pictures of the street. It is entirely about predictive physics.
Okay, predictive physics.
Yeah. A human driver relies on a biological brain that, let's be real, gets fatigued and distracted.
Guilty as charged.
Right, we all are. But the AI vehicle is ingesting gigabytes of environmental data every fraction of a second. It generates this massive three-dimensional point cloud of the entire street.
So it's not just seeing things, it's mapping them.
Exactly. It doesn't just see a cyclist. It calculates the exact velocity of that cyclist. It measures the trajectory of their tires and computes a statistical probability of where that bicycle will be in exactly 1.5 seconds.
Wow.
And it does this simultaneously for every single moving object in a 2-block radius, constantly updating its own physical vector to just thread the needle through the chaos without a single hesitation.
Think about your own morning commute.
Yeah.
You intuitively know that if a ball rolls out into the street from behind a parked car, a child might be running right behind it,
Right. You anticipate it.
Because you are using human intuition and lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the machine doesn't have intuition. It has statistical probability.
Yes. It has analyzed millions of hours of driving footage to mathematically conclude that a rolling sphere heavily correlates with a sudden pedestrian appearance.
And it preemptively hits the brakes faster than human biology would even allow a foot to move.
Which is exactly why the logistics industry is treating this successful delivery as a massive paradigm shift.
Because they're removing human error.
Right. By removing biological unreliability, the fatigue, the distraction, road rage, the promise is a vastly faster, more reliable supply chain. These fleets can theoretically operate flawlessly 24 hours a day.
Wait, let's play that out, though.
Okay.
If the ultimate goal of deploying these vehicles is the complete removal of human error, and the machines are the ones who can flawlessly navigate the data, aren't we basically designing cities where the human being is the glitch?
Oh, that's an interesting way to phrase it.
Because if the efficiency of this new system relies on absolute predictability and human beings are inherently unpredictable, it sounds like the streets of the future are actually designed for machines, not humans. Like, are we going to be engineered out of our own neighborhoods?
It is a profound friction point, absolutely. As our infrastructure inevitably adapts to support these sensor arrays, perhaps we'll see smart traffic lights that bypass visual signals entirely.
Like, they won't even have red or green lights.
Maybe not. They might just communicate binary code directly to the approaching vehicles. In that ecosystem, the human driver wielding a heavy steering wheel absolutely becomes the most dangerous erratic variable.
That is such an unsettling thought.
The physical architecture of our movement will likely shift to accommodate the intelligence of the machine first and the human second.
Which is wild. But the exact same underlying mechanism, you know, ingesting an ocean of chaotic data, finding hidden patterns, and making predictive decisions, it's moving far beyond our traffic grids.
It really is.
If AI algorithms can successfully navigate the unpredictable pathways of a bustling city, it makes complete sense that they are now being deployed to navigate the incredibly complex pathways of the human body.
What's fascinating here is how seamlessly the core analytical competency of the AI transfers across completely unrelated disciplines.
It's the same basic skill set.
Exactly. Whether it is scanning a dense city block for a pedestrian or scanning a dense neural network for a disease, the AI is doing the exact same thing. It is looking at a data set too massive for the human brain to comprehend and pulling out the structural anomalies.
The sources detail two massive breakthroughs happening right now in the biological sector: diagnostics and drug discovery.
Let's look at diagnostics first.
Right. Researchers have deployed an AI system that analyzes vast data sets of medical images to accurately identify early signs of neurological diseases.
Specifically Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Yeah. Now, a highly trained radiologist looking at an MRI is incredibly skilled, obviously,
Yeah.
but they are limited by human vision. They are looking for visual anomalies they have been trained to physically recognize.
But the AI is operating on a totally different plane of perception. It has been trained on data sets containing potentially millions of brain scans, tracking patients over decades.
So it's not looking for a visible tumor.
No, or an obvious lesion. The neural network is detecting microscopic structural changes, like subtle pixel-by-pixel degradations and asymmetrical patterns in the brain tissue that are entirely invisible to the human eye.
So instead of looking for storm clouds to predict the rain, think of it like inspecting a house. A human doctor is looking for massive visible cracks in the drywall to diagnose a structural problem, right?
Right.
But the AI is looking at the microscopic settling of the foundation, grain by grain, knowing exactly how those invisible mathematical shifts will cause the drywall to crack 3 years from now.
That analogy perfectly captures the shift. And the implications for global healthcare are just staggering. Our medical systems are fundamentally reactive right now.
You wait until you're sick.
Right. A patient shows symptoms, they visit a doctor, they receive a diagnosis, and the medical team attempts to manage a disease that has already entrenched itself.
But this is different.
This AI provides a truly proactive approach. Predicting the onset of Alzheimer's years before severe cognitive decline begins opens up entirely new windows for early intervention.
It shifts the focus from managing an illness to actually maintaining a patient's quality of life.
And the macro-level ripple effect could rewrite hospital economics globally. Treating late-stage neurological diseases requires immense resources.
Oh yeah, hospital beds, full-time care, massive financial burdens on families.
Catching it early completely alters that trajectory,
Like a
which ties directly into the second biological breakthrough from our drug discovery.
Right. Pharmaceutical companies are using AI to fundamentally replace the traditional laboratory experiment.
Because traditional drug discovery is agonizingly slow, it is essentially highly educated trial and error.
A researcher formulates a physical compound in a lab, tests how it reacts with the disease protein, tweaks it, tests it again.
It takes years and billions of dollars just to find a single viable candidate.
But the AI doesn't need physical test tubes. It understands the laws of physics and molecular geometry so deeply that it can virtually simulate these interactions.
Yes. It can take the complex three-dimensional molecular structure of a disease and virtually dock billions of different chemical puzzle pieces into it in a matter of seconds.
So it perfectly predicts the physical reaction without a single drop of liquid ever being mixed in a real lab.
Exactly. It accelerates the timeline exponentially. The AI narrows down a haystack of billions of potential compounds to just a handful of the most promising needles.
And then human researchers synthesize those specific few and test them in the real world.
It drastically lowers the barrier to entry for pharmaceutical development, it slashes costs, and it pushes life-saving medications to the pharmacy shelves years faster than previously possible.
Which is amazing. I mean, I'm amazed by the capability, but it does force a difficult question for you to ponder about the future of the medical profession.
Oh, for sure.
If the AI is the entity detecting the invisible pixel degradation in the brain scan, and the AI is the entity virtually simulating and discovering the molecular cure, at what point does the machine become the primary physician?
That is the big debate.
Right. Like, does the human doctor just become an administrative assistant whose only job is to deliver the printout to the patient with a sympathetic smile?
The medical community is wrestling with that exact dynamic right now. The analytical superiority of the AI is undeniable. I mean, it holds more medical literature, genetic data, and case studies in its parameters than a doctor could read in 1,000 lifetimes.
Yeah, you can't compete with that.
But medicine is not solely an equation to be solved. It requires the interpretation of the human experience.
Like bedside manner.
More than that, it's understanding a patient's pain tolerance, their lifestyle constraints, their personal values regarding end-of-life care.
Right. The human elements.
The consensus is leaning toward a symbiotic relationship where the AI handles the heavy analytical lifting, freeing the human doctor to focus entirely on contextualized judgment and the profoundly human art of care.
The human art of it. Here's where it gets really
Oh
interesting.
yeah, this is a big pivot.
We've spent this entire deep dive looking at AI navigating highly objective mathematical environments. You know, the physics of city traffic, the geometry of molecular biology. But our sources show the technology has crossed a very different kind of boundary.
It's moving into the subjective world.
Exactly, the highly subjective, deeply emotional world of human creativity. AI is no longer just solving logistical problems, it is making art.
This transition forces us to evaluate the technology not just as a tool for survival, but as a mirror for our own cultural identity.
The digest highlights a recent, highly publicized event where a digital artist generated an entire exhibition of original artwork using AI.
They fed the system thousands of reference images, right?
Yeah, and the AI output a collection of unique pieces that blended disparate styles and genres in completely unexpected ways. Unsurprisingly, this has ignited a fierce debate in the art world.
As you would expect.
Our sources map out two distinctly opposed viewpoints on this exhibition, and it is crucial we look at both impartially without taking a side, because they both strike at the core of what it actually means to create.
Let's start with the purists. On one side of the aisle, their argument is rooted in the belief that art is a fundamental medium of human communication.
It's a human thing.
Right. It is the physical manifestation of lived experience, mortality, joy, grief, love.
And a machine has never felt a broken heart or feared its own death.
Exactly. So from the purist perspective, the AI is simply performing mathematical operations. It is analyzing the statistical distribution of pixels across the thousands of human-made images it was fed, and it is just rearranging those pixels based on probability.
The argument is that without genuine human intention and, emotional vulnerability driving the brushstrokes, the resulting image, no matter how visually stunning, is entirely hollow.
It's the equivalent of reading a deeply emotional letter generated by an algorithm that's just trying to mimic human empathy.
Yeah. But then you have the progressive side of the debate, which views this through a completely different lens.
They point out that virtually every new artistic technology was initially met with resistance.
Like the camera. When people figured out how to capture light, painters thought it wasn't real art.
Exactly. Or the synthesizer generating digital sound waves in music. People claimed it wasn't real music. The progressives argue this technology vastly expands the boundaries of artistic expression.
To them, the AI isn't a replacement for the artist. It's an incredibly powerful collaborator.
It can rapidly prototype visual concepts, seamlessly blend genres that a human might never even think to combine.
It allows the creator to pull images directly from their imagination into reality.
It really forces us to define the actual act of creation. Is the art the final physical product hanging on the gallery wall? Or is the art the human struggle and physical labor required to produce it?
Think about the tools a creator uses. If I use a highly advanced digital paintbrush in a software program, I am still the one driving the strokes, right?
Right.
But with this technology, the human simply types a text prompt, and the AI makes millions of micro decisions about color theory, composition, lighting, and style based on its training data.
Which brings up the big question.
Right. Is the AI just a very complex paintbrush, or is it a co-artist with its own distinct creative agency? And if it's a co-artist, who owns the masterpiece?
Is it the purser who wrote the prompt?
Or the developers who coded the neural network? Or, the thousands of original human artists whose copyrighted works were scraped off the internet to build the AI's training data in the first place?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that exact question of ownership and accountability is the absolute bottleneck of this technological revolution.
The innovation is moving at warp speed, and the legal and moral regulations are trailing years behind.
Which brings us to the final stop on our map today, the moral world.
Yeah, because if AI is driving delivery trucks on our public streets, diagnosing our brain diseases, and generating our cultural artifacts, who is making sure it behaves?
The sources cover a recent global conference on AI ethics that brought international experts together to tackle three massive vulnerabilities.
Data privacy, algorithmic bias, and developer responsibility.
And these are not just abstract academic concepts. They are the fundamental digital rights of every single person listening to this deep dive, and they are being negotiated right now.
Take algorithmic bias, for example.
Yeah, it sounds like a highly technical glitch, but it is actually a deeply societal issue. An AI model learns how to make decisions by analyzing historical data.
And historical data is created by flawed human beings. Whether it is decades of loan approval records, corporate hiring practices, or medical treatment histories.
Our human data is riddled with historical prejudices and systemic inequalities.
So when a neural network ingests that flawed data, it assigns mathematical weights to those historical outcomes.
Right. It learns the prejudices, but it launders them through a black box mathematical equation.
It literally bakes our past human flaws into its future decision-making.
Effectively hiding bias behind a veneer of objective, supposedly infallible math. The global consensus from this ethics conference is that we desperately need robust regulatory frameworks to enforce equitable use and hold developers accountable.
Hold on, I have a fundamental problem with this consensus.
What do you mean?
Well, the global experts are calling for strict guidelines and developer accountability, right? But how do you actually regulate a dynamic intelligence?
It's incredibly difficult.
Because traditional laws are static. They tell a corporation exactly what it can and cannot do with a specific product. But this technology is fundamentally designed to independently learn, adapt, and evolve past its original programming.
It changes on its own.
Yeah. If an AI alters its own operational code to become more efficient over time, how can a regulatory body police something that behaves differently on a Friday than it did on a Monday?
That is the nightmare scenario for global regulators. You cannot legislate a moving target with static laws.
So what are they doing?
This is why the conference focused heavily on new concepts like algorithmic auditing.
Algorithmic auditing. Okay, what is that?
Instead of just reading the static source code, independent watchdog groups would constantly probe an active AI with edge cases. They would attempt to force it into biased or dangerous outcomes to see how it reacts in real time.
Like stress testing it constantly.
Exactly. But the reality is that governments are scrambling. They are trying to build the airplane while they are already flying it at supersonic speeds.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive by opening up a July 2026 AI News Digest. And the thread pulling all these sources together is undeniable.
It really is.
Artificial intelligence is no longer a novelty trapped behind a screen. It is an active, participating force in our physical safety on the streets. It holds the keys to our biological longevity in our hospitals, and it's actively reshaping our cultural identity in our galleries.
It has integrated itself into the foundational pillars of human society. As it successfully removes human error from our logistics networks and spots microscopic diseases our own eyes cannot perceive, it really forces humanity to confront its own biological limitations.
And as it relentlessly evolves, it leaves us scrambling to write the ethical rulebook before the machine simply writes it for us.
This raises an important question, and it is a thought I want to leave you to chew on long after this deep dive ends.
Let's hear it.
We have just explored how incredibly effective this technology is at providing the answers. It can flawlessly compute the chaotic delivery route, It can perfectly predict the molecular interaction, and it can instantly generate a breathtaking piece of visual art.
So if the machine is eventually capable of holding all the right answers, maybe the most valuable human skill in the future won't be our ability to memorize knowledge, compute data, or even perfectly render an image.
Right.
Maybe our greatest value will simply be knowing how to ask the AI the right questions.
Knowing what frontiers to explore, knowing what boundaries to push, and knowing what it truly means to direct that immense, unfeeling intelligence toward a better, more meaningful human experience.
That is a fascinating thought to hold on to as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Navigating this shifting landscape is a shared journey, and we are thrilled you took the time to explore the chaos with us today. Keep asking those right questions, stay insanely curious, and we will catch you next time.